Joe Perry. So he went from a local kid to as famous as you can go. He's one of the top guys. But he had dreams. He quit school young. His mother was a phys ed teacher. And the first gig they had, of course, she got them at a high school. And she never dreamed that they were going to be Aerosmith. So she had a lot to do with it, promoting his son. But it goes to show local kids that you can go to the top no matter where you're from if you believe in your dream. Very important. When I was a little boy, most of the movies were about westerns, and there was no rock and roll. So people listened to country and western music, and it was always, cowboys singing a song and playing the guitar when you went to the movies. That got me excited, so I wanted to be a cowboy when I grew up.
Where's the boss?
Who's asking?
The name is Johnny. Guitar.
So?
I have an appointment with Vienna.
Vienna's busy. You'll have to wait.
I could use a little dinner.
Fix him up in the kitchen, Tom.
Right this way.
You ain't paid for your drink, mister.
Well, don't rush the night. I may be around a while. Take good care of these.
I thought as a kid that I was going to be a movie star. I was convinced I was going to end up on television or in a movie playing my guitar. And my buddies would come over and we'd go up to the bedroom and stand in front of the mirror and pretend it was a television. And we'd dress up, get our guitars, and we'd sing like we were movie stars. And that was the beginning of an incredible, exciting time with the guitar. So that was the teens, and along came rock and roll. And wow, boy, I couldn't wait to look on TV and see someone. And there was a 12-year-old kid who had a double neck guitar, and he jumped all over the stage and sang and played. His name was Larry Collins, and I just wanted to be like him. And he had an older guy would play the top neck, and he'd play the bottom neck, and on one guitar they'd do a duet. And I dreamed to have that guitar someday. And that started the excitement of having more guitars, and more and more. My band toured. First we were local. We just played any high school that we could get a gig at, and we were too young to be in nightclubs. And then in the future, when we got a little older, we had a chance to back up some famous groups. We would open up for them, and it didn't pay much, but we got to be there and get to hang around with the famous people. And then, I would say mid-60s, late 60s, we got a chance to travel with some major bands and be the opening act. And then we had our own records. And then we went a little further with it and worked our way across country and had somewhat some success. But in those days, you couldn't leave school and go off and tour with a band. it was just unheard of. Parents wanted you to, stay in your local area. And I didn't get out to the West Coast until I was in my 20s. And that seemed really exciting. They get into the film industry as well. And tried a little bit of that as well. And but started to come back home and do local clubs and run my store. So the touring days, as my kids get older, I had to be around the home more often, so that I couldn't tour too much outside of New England. That kind of ended the big dream.
You said that you toured with like major bands like early on.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that a little bit more? Like,
Well,
what band?
we did, my band did a tour with Janis Joplin, and her band was Big Brother and the Holding Company, Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, the Allman Brothers. One of the fellas who was a founding member of Steely Dan was originally a part of the Doobie Brothers, but his original Boston band was called The Ultimate Spinach, and they had some major albums, and we traveled around with those guys. But they went out to California and struck it big with Doobie Brothers and Steely Dan. So we still stay in touch, but they ended up a major thing.
First story.
My first store, I started helping my guitar teacher, who was older than me, and he had a store, and I used to help him out. And I was maybe 12, 13 years old, and it wasn't my store, but I could go down there and be with him and get the whole thrill going. My first store of my own, I was probably 25 years old, and I was going to call it Mike's Music World because I had a little baby whose name was Mike, and I imagined him growing up in the store. And from there on in, I think it was 1966, and I'm 57 years in the business and still liking it and finding it fascinating. And always a new door opening to a new exciting guitar. And I love to have my customers get excited about it too. It was like I relived through them getting a guitar. And I know the thrill they had playing the guitars. So there's a lot of enjoyment in every which way. As I say, when you think about it, well, how old were you when you started on the guitar?
17.
So you saw somebody and thought, I want to do that. And it starts. It's amazing. You can't explain it to anybody else, the thrill you get of making your music. And a lot of people wish they could, but they can't. It's inborn. God blesses us with it. And it ends up in our hearts and in our fingers and in our ears. And we make other people know what we feel through our music. So it's a creator. And we become creators. Pretty exciting. Yeah, my son was, Sean, he was very artistic. He loved art, and he loved music. And of course, I always had a guitar, and he was around it all the time. And he started playing it, and he never put it down. And he took it out. He went to Berkeley School of Music, and he played live. He went out to New York, and then he went to California, and he played live. And he was fascinated with the film industry and decided to put music to the movies. And he's had an exciting career. He's done over 300 movies. He's met every famous person you could imagine and got to be friends with them, and that was pretty good as well. And he mentions having the privilege of knowing Jeff Beck as a friend. He thought he was one of the greatest guitar players ever, Jeff Beck. Jimmy Page. He was excited with Jimmy Page from, I think, when his first guitar history when he was a kid. Once he heard Jimmy Page, he wanted to do that. And yeah, they're sort of the same monsters. Sean ended up with a neighbor, Eddie Van Halen. Got to hang with him, know him, and see what that guy could do with a guitar. And boy, he really took it out. I mean, he was very creative. The guys in Cheap Trick got to be friends, personal friends. And he got to hang around with the guy who has so many guitars, Rick Nielsen. He has a guitar made with 5 necks, and he plays them all. Well, when I think of the people that we had a chance to be around, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Richie Sambora, David Gilmour, David Bowie. Wow. To think that a guitar can put you in touch with all those people and you can share their dreams. That's kind of going to the top. It's beautiful. It's funny, I call up my son and somebody famous is always at his house. And he says they're just people, you know. But boy, I think of them as something else. And to be a part of it in my little way, and to think of starting a kid on a guitar that could maybe be famous later, boy, that's a great job. And I thank God for it, yeah. There must be music up in heaven. One of the great stars wrote a song about if there's a rock and roll heaven, I know I'm going to be in that band. And maybe that's where they go. Maybe there is music up there. What a nice idea that is. That says a lot.
And it's whisper that soon